Hey guys, welcome to another GameXplain discussion. I'm your host, Andre Seegers, and this time we're joined by Derek Bittner and Ash Paulson to discuss even more about the news that Netflix is making a series based on The Legend of Zelda. So let's get started. Alright guys, so I know we already posted a discussion about this, but Ash and I were actually in Vegas when the news broke, so we weren't able to join in on that, but I think we still have quite a few thoughts to convey about the idea of this, especially because it's been about almost a week since the news came out. So I thought it'd be fun to, to reflect upon that too. We've had more time to think about it. So anyways, for me, like real quick, I think this is awesome. Like I am totally in love with this news. I love the idea of it, even though I think there's a strong chance this could turn out to be garbage, assuming this actually happens, and that this report is true from the Wall Street Journal. I just love the idea of there being a Zelda TV show or Zelda series on Netflix.
You know, I am a little more ambivalent on it. I don't know. I'm going to take a wait and see approach. This just has so much potential to be terrible, and
yep, it sure does.
Yeah, and I don't know. I've never really hoped Zelda would become a TV show or a movie or really anything like that. I'm happy with it being one of my favorite video game series, and I don't know. There's just so much potential for this to be just awful,
yeah,
and it might be great. And I'm not going to say this shouldn't happen and how dare Nintendo do this. No, I mean totally do it, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it turns out. But I am definitely going to take a wait and see approach on this.
Well, there's still that stigma involved with video games and movies and adaptations because so few of them are actually, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why it's so easy to be wary about this. And some of the big projects you think would have worked out well or done well, there's always something that happens behind the scenes that prevents them from potentially happening. We've had so many near movies happen with a lot of these franchises. There's been, an Uncharted movie in the works for a while. There's that BioShock movie in the works for a while. And there was the whole Halo movie that was supposed to happen that, did not happen after a while. And so it's sort of surprising to think that this could happen because so many of the bigger franchises just never get done for one reason or another.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a strong chance it may fall through. I mean, it's odd that the Wall Street Journal themselves don't even mention a source. They don't even say unnamed sources. They literally say, they don't say at all where this news came from. So presumably they heard it somewhere and are confident in that source, but they don't even cite anything at all, which is weird. So for me, yeah, I think there's a strong chance this could be like the worst thing Zelda's ever done. I don't think that matters at all though. Like, who cares? That's why I'm excited. Like, on the off chance it does turn out really well, it'll be completely worth it. And if it doesn't, so what? It'll be another footnote in Zelda's history, of which has had many terrible things, actually. I'm including CDI games, a TV show, which wasn't quite as bad, or even the original cartoon, I should say. And I would even argue some of the games. So, for me, like, I as one who's liked a lot of the series recently, like, I used to not watch TV really at all, or like, long-form TV series, rather. We're kind of in, a lot of people have called it like a new golden age of TV. And that kind of seems to be the case, but I've been hooked on a lot of shows recently, like Breaking Bad or Game of Thrones, which they cite as this, as the Zelda show, being like a family-friendly version, was kind of a weird thing to say. But, yeah. They do anything like of that caliber, of that quality, and especially coming from Netflix, who's done, House of Cards, which is also just a fantastic show for the most part. I really am excited, even, on the remote chance it actually does turn out well. So, I think everything is in place. Like, Netflix is a great partner to have on this, and I think it could turn out to be something amazing. Especially we discussed earlier, I forget what discussion it was. I think it was talking about Iwata and saying how they wanted to do more with their IP. We ran with that idea and suggesting things they could do. And we threw out, I think, movies as an idea, or at least I did. And I don't think I considered TV shows at the time, but I think it makes a lot of sense. And it's something that really is untapped for video games. There have not been many, like, seriously, or serious TV shows based on games. And I think Zelda's an interesting way of going about it.
I don't think it's totally unprecedented either, because remember, like a couple of months back, there was that huge leak of Sony emails that Sony and Nintendo had at least had some talks about producing a Zelda something. So, oh no, that was Mario.
It was Mario, yeah.
Yeah, so then, that's strange. So I wonder if that's still something separate then.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I mean, again, I think Iwata has said that they've been looking to branch out a little bit, so...
Yeah, so then, maybe they're still working on a Mario movie, and they're doing this Zelda TV series separately from that, and they really are kind of really trying to branch out with some of their biggest franchises, which is pretty interesting. I just wonder if... I don't know. I just don't know if live action is the right format for Zelda. I mean, I think of the Sonic Boom cartoon, which is actually really good. I know the games were not very good, but the Sonic Boom cartoon is actually pretty good, and it works perfectly well in CG. And I can't... Obviously, Zelda is not a... it's a little darker and it's more action, But I just wonder if Zelda wouldn't be better in CG. I like How to Train Your Dragon is kind of similar thematically, and that looks great. And I just kind of... I don't know. Live action just worries me for Zelda.
So for me, I've said before, I like Zelda. I've tended to like Zelda games when they take themselves more seriously. Like even Majora's Mask, I feel like gets a little bit goofy at times, and so I don't know how far. Again, they mentioned the Game of Thrones thing, and I don't know how literally we should be taking that. I mean, it can't be that literally, of course, for many reasons. But I mean, it does lend the idea that they're trying to take this TV show is going to try to take itself seriously, and I think having live action is the best way to accomplish that. I'm not sure if they could do it justice in CG. Yeah, Sonic Boom actually does work pretty well from what little I've seen of it. Like, it looks good, but I don't know. I feel like if Nintendo wants to reach a demographic beyond their core one already, I think going live action is what they have to do. I don't think CG is capable of that. I think people will write it off as a cartoon, but some people already write off Pixar movies, despite them having adult themes. And plus,
that's a good point.
And plus, I think they could do more with a live action budget, or with more live action on the same budget than they could do a CG on that same budget, just based on what we've seen.
Yeah, those are all really good points. I mean, it definitely has the potential to be something great. I just, as Derek was saying, the history here is so clouded and so uncertain that I don't know. It's hard to get too excited, but I am going to be very interested in seeing how this kind of coalesces and comes together.
I mean, I think the television approach is one of the best ways to do that because it keeps the budget modest, so people aren't going to be expecting the best effects. The expectations are a bit tempered in that regard. They have a lot more time to work with because how long is a typical House of Cards or Orange is the New Black season?
What, 10 episodes?
10 episodes?
For House of Cards?
Yeah.
Game of Thrones.
So, there's 10 hours to work with. I think you could do a really good adaptation with that. And that's the question. Are they going to adapt the past games? Or are they going to craft something completely new in the same vein as the old cartoon series where it was just sort of this setup, not really keeping all of the themes and the characters and stuff like that, but doing their own thing with it, which would be totally legitimate in a Zelda setting. So there's a lot of different things they could do as far as the style that they could go for, and that's probably what I'm most curious about is how are they going to structure this show?
I think I'm more interested in what part of the Zelda timeline they're going to focus on for this. Are they going to focus on something a little darker, or at least with an older Link like Twilight Princess or something like that? Or are they going to maybe focus on the young Link like Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker style? There's so many directions they can go in. My guess is they'll probably settle on something centered on Twilight Princess or something at least thematically similar to it. But I don't know. Zelda has such a rich, diverse timeline with so many different versions of Link and art styles. There's so many directions in which they can go with this.
Is there a particular direction you'd want to see them go in then, I guess? Because there's so many ways. As you mentioned, there's a ton of different ways they could do this. It really is just a completely open field for them, so to speak, open world field. I don't know. They could go the route of American Horror Story, for instance, and make each season its own unique story, like an anthology series. Or do you think they should focus it around the core adventures of, I guess, Link or some other character they come up with? Any ideas for what you'd want them to do?
Well, I think what it's probably going to be is that if they're trying to reach a new demographic, as you said, Andre, by making it live action, maybe aging it up just a bit, they're probably just going to start from zero and just cover, the very basic Link, Zelda, Ganondorf, Triforce, dynamic, and maybe even just do a basic retelling of the original Zelda with obviously some more complex story elements thrown in.
Instead of just seeing them go around bombing random walls or bushes.
Well, yeah, and I don't think they can make a series that's built off an established story already, like the Wind Waker timeline or something like, or Skyward Sword or something, because that would require knowledge of the games. And if they're trying to reach people who haven't necessarily played all the games, that's not going to work. So I think they're definitely going to take an origin story approach here, and either have it have nothing to do with any of the existing Zelda stories or timeline. Maybe have it take place in its own kind of weird universe, or they'll just start from the very beginning. Maybe they'll do Skyward Sword. That's possible. But I feel like it's just probably going to be a basic, Zelda 1-esque. Link has to get stronger and fight this evil King Ganondorf and save Zelda. I don't think it's going to be super complex.
I think the game that's probably lends itself the best to being adapted and squeezing in new elements that the writers can do for themselves and figure out ways to craft the entire story but still keep the basic framework is A Link to the Past. Because that gets you that you could play Link to the Past straight up. You don't need any knowledge, because that's where a lot of this stuff comes from. Yeah, the Triforce showed up in the previous games, but this is where you got a real thematic purpose for the Triforce and seeing it actually in action, what it does. And this is Ganondorf's big play, how he takes over. And you can use a Gundam as sort of like this bait and switch thing. You could use, there's so many different things you could do for A Link to the Past, because I was thinking initially Ocarina of Time might be the best one, but then you still get into the problem of having to do a young kid into an older kid, and not quite sure if they want to do that for their first season. So I think Link to the Past does work the best as far as an adaptation.
So, I mean, do you think they would actually base it on a specific game, though? I'm thinking they would almost treat this as its own entity. Like,
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, take the essence of Zelda and turn that into a TV show. Like, I don't think they base it on any particular game.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was saying, because I don't think if they're trying to reach a new demographic with this, they're not going to base it on a game that you would had to have played to really, understand what's going on. That's
why I chose Link to the Past. You don't need to play. You wouldn't have had to need to play the game in order to understand it. Link to the Past would give you all the building blocks you need in order to set the series. And that's what I was getting at as far as suggesting Link to the Past.
I mean, and there are good thematic elements there that would translate well into a TV show, like the light world and the dark world, and the pendants of power, or whatever they're called. I mean, there are very kind of easy to understand goals that milestones that they can use. It would almost work like finales in a TV series. So there is that kind of linear element to Link to the Past that could translate well into a TV show.
That is a good one, though. Like, do you think they'll have temples that Link explores? Like, will he have to collect like 10 different things around the world before you can open up the final way to Ganon? Or I wonder how they'll handle that aspect of it, because Zelda is an adventure game, right?
Yeah.
You do go around collecting things.
I'm sure there'll be things that Link has to do before he can go take on the great big bad, but they'll probably downplay that kind of point A, B, C, D video gamey element just because it's not a video game.
One of the things I was talking about when I did this discussion initially with Johnny and Ryan is casting decisions, and none of us could really come up with anything. We mostly just settled on, let's go for somebody new. And a lot of people brought this up, and I didn't even think about it until afterwards. How perfect would it be to get Zelda Williams to play Zelda? Because she is, even on her Twitter, she said she is totally up for that.
That would be pretty amazing, actually, right?
I'm totally for that decision.
Yeah, I'd be down with that. I have no complaints.
I mean, that would be great for marketing, too, right? If you can market Zelda Williams as being Zelda, that would be pretty amazing.
Because they got that connection. People are familiar with her, not only because of Robin Williams' daughter, but those Zelda commercials, which were so great.
Yeah, that's true. It's just too bad Robin Williams is no longer with us, because he could have made a great tingle.
Oh, God. With his old beard that he had in those commercials, I'd say King of Hyrule.
Yeah, actually, that's true.
Yeah.
I feel like going with unknowns wouldn't be the worst option here, simply because you are bringing characters to life that have otherwise been, pretty much only in games, with a few exceptions here and there. Like, I feel like, I don't know, I hope they cast to the role as opposed to casting to the actor, if that makes sense.
Sure.
I want them to, I don't want them to lock themselves into how a character is going to behave because they cast a certain person this way. I don't know. I'm really curious to see what they're going to do here. And I think it came up in your discussion, Derek. But yeah, I mean, one question is like, is Link going to talk, right? And I feel like he has to in this. And finding that voice also is going to be a little bit difficult, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even begin to imagine who they would cast. I think going with unknowns would be a good idea here as well. Only because if you get a well-known actors and actresses to play these iconic characters, you're always going to be reminded that you're watching these actors. You're not going to be pulled into the world as easily because you're going to be like, hey, that's that actor, hey, that's that actress, and you're going to always be acutely aware of the fact that you're watching these big-name actors play these iconic characters rather than just watching the characters themselves.
Right.
Maybe for the initial episodes, but I mean, I've read Game of Thrones before watching the series, so for that first season, I was always interested. And when I cast a lot of these actors, the only two I was familiar with was Sean Bean and, oh god, I feel terrible for this, the actor who plays Tyrion. Those were the only two I was acutely familiar with. Everything else was unknown, and even those actors were able to dive into the roles so quickly and easily that I kind of forgot that I was watching that actor in particular. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, they can get those big names, but if they're, depending on how good this show is, you could easily forget that you're watching that actor. It really is just a matter of how good the casting is and how well that actor can fill the role.
All right. Well, do you guys have any final thoughts or anything you want to bring up that we haven't talked about yet at all? Or
the only thing I can think of is that we probably shouldn't expect to see this for at least a year and a half. I think this is a very early announcement. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't expect to see anything kind of come of this at least until next year.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, I'm just, once again, I'm actually really excited for this. I think it's good to see Nintendo branch out more, especially, I think, they might be realizing too, their market share has been shrinking, and they need to find new ways of reaching out, and I think this is a smart way of going about it, assuming the show is good. I would love to see them do more of this. I think there's so much more they can do with their IP than they have already, and I love this. If this actually comes through, I love the fact that they took a risk on this, and I hope it pays off for them. Alright, well, I think that wraps up for us here, so thanks guys for watching. If you liked our discussion, make sure to like and follow us on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplain, which you can find links to in the description below. It's a good way to keep up to date on everything we post, and of course keep an eye on GameXplain.com for more on the Zelda Netflix TV series, hopefully at some point, and other things gaming as well. Alright, thanks guys. Bye.